How we doing?
Okay, awesome.
Better? You guys are a little chatty today. That's nice. I like to hear that. Okay. Sacco and Vanzetti. I talked about that at the end of my last lecture, and really just kind of a shot across the bow as far as, listen, don't always believe what you read. Don't always believe what I tell you. Okay? And certainly don't believe the news. Okay? Because those people, they all have an agenda. It doesn't matter which channel you're watching. They all have an agenda. Now, you can listen to the news, okay? But I've listened to multiple news sources because trying to get, exactly what is fact from opinion can be difficult, okay? But if you're really good at history and you paid attention to history, then you have more of a context to understand things than if you don't. Otherwise, you're just an idiot. Yeah, sorry.
I saw this post where it's who do you trust more, the media or a random dog off the street, and the dog got 98%.
Yeah. There's some truth to that. And really, trust in the media is at an all-time low in this country, okay? Which is not good. Trust in government's not very good either, right? Hopefully, there's a little bit of trust in Mr. Ebright. Okay, so I'm going to move forward, and all this, it's all been this negativity, that red summer of 1919 and so forth. It's been bad. I think we should talk about something a little more spirited. Don't you?
Oh my God.
Like alcohol, okay, or prohibition of alcohol. This is probably one of the dumbest things we've ever done as a nation, okay? And that is take something that vast majority of Americans see nothing wrong with in moderation, okay, and make it illegal. Okay? Everybody's different. Everybody's family's different in here. I do realize I am in a Catholic classroom, but
This is going to YouTube.
yes, it is. Okay. Sorry, I am politically incorrect, okay? And so, no, but we have some families where they don't drink alcohol, okay? Which is, fine. It's up to each family what they believe. But it is going to criminalize a behavior that many people have been doing for their adult lives, okay? And so, you got to come up with some good reasons for this, right? I mean, if you're going to make it the law of the land, you got to come up with some good reasons, okay? Now, this is during or the lead up to World War I, so that's going to be a part of it. By World War I, half the states had already had prohibition of alcohol. Kansas was a leader back then. We were at the forefront of things. Some of you studied some Kansas history, and you know about Carrie Nation? Yeah, Carrie Nation? Yeah, she was the one with the hatchet that would go into the saloons and destroy them. I mean, she was a mean lady, okay? Famously here in Wichita, the Eaton Hotel, which is still downtown, they had a saloon on the ground floor, and she went in there and worked it up. So, really, we have one group of people that we can really blame for this. Women. Now, to be fair, the members of Congress that proposed this amendment were all men, and they were listening to their wives, so you can blame them as well. But seriously, the women's temperance movement was something that had been pushing this for a while. And there is a lot of truth to the fact that their husbands, boyfriends, and so forth would get drunk. And there was physical abuse of women. There still is today, obviously. And alcohol exacerbates that situation. And their children. Not to mention blowing their paychecks, going to the saloon, drinking their paychecks away, gambling, and so forth. Yes. So that's why we have gambling laws, too, okay, which we're doing away with. okay? But anyhow, so the wartime Congress is going to pass this for the nationally, okay, in January of 1919. And so they're going to give us some reasons for that, okay? And for the war effort, conserving grain is big, okay? Another interesting kind of a xenophobic thing was a lot of your German counterparts there that I talked about yesterday that immigrated this part of the country. They moved to places like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, St. Louis, Missouri, and started brewing beer. Okay, so the German beer brewers were the best, and they're still around. Anheuser-Busch, okay, Miller. So these companies would be damaged, and these Germans that we were fighting against in World War I, yes, would be damaged, okay? Even though it's doing damage in our own country to our own citizens, okay? But that was kind of a xenophobic reaction. And then sober and clear-headed soldiers and workers are obviously a good idea during wartime when you're doing the war production and then soldiers being trained and going to fight overseas. So these were some of the reasons they gave for prohibition. Now, the problem with this is enforcement, okay? Enforcing this law is going to be difficult, okay? Because most people still want alcohol, okay? So you're actually going to see consumption rise in some places. So the federal government, okay, is going to employ 1,520 federal agents or higher. Now, I don't know if you know this. If you were to walk around the entire border and coastline of the United States, it's 18,000 miles around the U.S., around the outside, okay? So you have a very long border with Canada, very long border with Mexico, and then you have all the ports of entry on the coast. How are you going to catch all that alcohol coming in from outside the country with 1,500 agents? Not to mention police the alcohol that's being illegally manufactured in the United States. Now, I've had students that had grandparents that had basically alcohol still, like a still, out on the farm, okay, where they would make their own alcohol. Okay, grain alcohol, corn alcohol, moonshine, right? So you get these new terms like booze and moonshine, okay? It was very difficult. The disrespect for the law. I mean, kind of like drive down Kellogg or 235. How many people are disrespecting speed limit laws? I'm an offender, okay? And so it's a situation where people are just, they don't respect the law. I mean, what is wrong with having a glass of wine at Thanksgiving dinner? But it's illegal now. You're a criminal for doing it, okay? So that's going to cause a lot of problems, and the high demand for this is going to be a great source of profit for the black market, which basically turns into organized crime and the mafia, okay? And we are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that would be made during Prohibition. Prohibition is going to last from 1919 to 1933. Okay? That's through the roaring 20s. That's when we're having a good time. We're just doing it illegally. Okay? And, let me ask you this. Now, I'm not trying to be stereotyping here. Any guys know any cops? Do cops drink? Cops drink too. Politicians? Think they drink? You betcha. Okay? So the lawmakers and the law enforcers, you know what I mean? So, of course, you have your prudes, the ones that are like, it's the devil's juice, and we need to, get it, okay? But then, because there's no Federal Trade Commission and stuff like that to regulate alcohol, the illegal alcohol trade turns into organized crime, where one group of people controls this part of the city, another group of people control another part. This was Kansas City, Chicago, New York. I mean, in New York, the Italians controlled part of the city, the Jews another, the Poles another, okay? And if somebody tried to sell illegal alcohol on their turf, you can't report that to the Federal Trade Commission. You take the law in your own hands. And this is where you get the violence, okay? And of course, notoriously in Chicago with Al Capone, the violence became very bad. And so, I mean, the government actually thought about calling in the U.S. Army in Chicago. There's a pretty good movie. Is Loveless teaching movies and history this year? You got taken that? There's a really good movie on this called The Untouchables. It's got a great cast of characters. Kevin Costner, the old guy that used to play 007, Sean Connery. It's one of the bloodiest movies you'll ever see. Robert De Niro plays Capone. Yeah, it's a really good movie, but violent as get out, about Chicago, which is, I think you learn a lot from watching this movie. But anyhow, that becomes a problem, okay? Serious. And it's the same problem we have with illegal drug trade in this country, right? Okay? People die every day in this country over drugs. People die from drugs, and then they die over drugs, like over drug deals. Yes? Okay? So if it was legal, you would still have people dying from drugs. Okay? But you would have fewer people dying about drugs. That makes sense. Cigarettes are kind of taboo these days, right? I mean, smoking is nasty, it smells bad, it's gross, right? When I was in high school, a lot of people smoked. When my parents were growing up, everybody smoked. Okay? When I was in high school, there was a smoking section. You could go out in high school and go outside. They used to have that at Bishop Carroll. You go out at lunch, you could smoke. Okay? If you were 18. Okay? Now it's 21, right, for cigarettes? Yeah, they didn't even ask anybody. They just did it. Okay. If you prohibit cigarettes today, you're going to create a black market. People are going to still want cigarettes. In fact, because it's illegal, you may even draw more people to cigarettes because it's fun. That's why a lot of people drink alcohol when they're young, because it's kind of exciting that you're sticking it to the man. You know what I mean? And getting away with something. Okay, it's fun. It makes it more exciting. Plus, alcohol kind of loosens you up that way, anyways, and so it happens. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot with this, guys, and so. It's going to end miserably. Okay, I got more stuff to talk about here. Okay, so another thing that was a byproduct of this, there were a couple good byproducts of prohibition if you, depending on your thoughts, okay? So when prohibition ended in 1933, the organized crime, the mob, the mafia, they had secured hundreds of millions of dollars. One of the things they chose not to do was go into other illegal drugs. So you got to give them some praise there. I mean, they could have started getting opioids and trying to get those onto the streets of America, but they didn't do that. So a lot of the money from illegal prohibition went to seed a paradise in the desert of Nevada. A little paradise known as what? Las Vegas. Okay, so a lot of the seed money for the casinos came from organized crime. Okay, so if you're into Vegas and gambling, that's a good byproduct of prohibition. Okay, I've never been to Sin City. Probably won't. Okay, unless somebody's talking me into it sometime. Okay? I don't like to gamble, so I work too hard for my money, and I'm not going to throw it away. The other one is, I don't know if you guys ever saw the Dukes of Hazzard, the TV show Dukes of Hazzard. They did a movie too. Okay, guys, in the country, especially in the South, you'd have people making bathtub gin. distill on the farm. They'd be making it. And so you need somebody to transport the illegal alcohol to the speakeasies, the bars and stuff, right? Well, these guys that would run the liquor would soup up their cars to make them go real fast so they could run from the cops and outrun the cops. Okay? When Prohibition was over, you had all these rednecks with fast cars and nothing to do anymore with those fast cars. So they started building dirt tracks, oval dirt tracks, and racing them. $1 billion industry was born called NASCAR. Okay? That's where that comes from, NASCAR racing, stock cars. Okay? Any NASCAR fans in here? And we just don't seem to have too many in Kansas, even though we have the Kansas Speedway, Have you guys been up there? You been to a race there, or you been to a race there? I haven't been. Is it cool? Yeah, it's pretty neat. I've been to a stock car. I've been to Talladega. Yes, Talladega Nights. Yes, fabulous. Okay. Yeah. So anyhow, there's some positive vibes. Okay. You guys want to talk about legalization right now? Let's go ahead and move in that direction. Talk about it because it is a campaign, a little bit of a campaign issue. I did hear Chuck Schumer, who is the Senate Minority Leader, come out, tweeted this week that it's time for the United States to decriminalize marijuana. That's the second most powerful person in the Senate. He's a Democrat. Okay. Now, there's a lot of Republicans think we should do this too. And then there's a lot in both parties that don't think we should do this. Okay. Obviously, we have to see what Colorado and many other states have done, right? They have decriminalized it. Marijuana laws are federal laws. It is federally banned substance. Okay. So Colorado, by decriminalizing it, is violating federal law. So the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, the Secret Service, the ATF, could all go into Colorado and shut down every pot store in Colorado right now. Okay? And arrest the people there. Okay? They could do that. They could enforce federal law. But they're not. Obama chose not to. Trump has chose not to. Okay? And so basically, we have people violating federal law in these states. Okay, so maybe it is time, to repeal the federal marijuana law and allow the states to determine whether they're going to allow marijuana or not. I mean, that's what's happening now. It's just that they're in violation of the law. Now, as far as legalization or decriminalization in Kansas, the impact of that, we're starting to see some of the impact of that from Colorado, right? I mean, Colorado's already kind of a laid-back place where people like to move, and now if you can go there and smoke weed and hang out and, river raft and ski and hike and bike and do all of those things while you're high, okay? And a lot of people do. So you also have problems with marijuana when it comes to, work ethic. Now, some people function completely fine on marijuana, okay? Others don't, okay? And who you really don't want to have marijuana is children because it can kill your brain cells and make you stupid. Stupid. Okay? So the easier access, and this is the way I like to do it here, okay? You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to. It's Friday. If you want to buy a joint for the weekend, do you know who to find in the school to buy a joint? You raise your hand if you think you could buy a joint today. Okay, now some of you may not know those people, okay? All right, that's okay. But you have access to it now, yes? Do we want to increase that access for our kids? And I think decriminalizing or legalizing it increases that access, just like alcohol, okay? In many cases, you could say alcohol is worse than marijuana, okay? I'm not sure if that's true. Is marijuana a gateway drug? Yes, it is. Guys, if you talk to anybody that has been addicted to heroin or cocaine, what drug did they use first? Okay. And they probably drank first. They probably drank first, then did marijuana, and then just kept going. Okay. Now, as far as opioids go and pills, okay, what we're seeing now is people are not doing marijuana, they're taking pills. Okay. And these pills, depending on where you get them, can kill you. They certainly will make you an addict. Okay. All it takes is one time. Have I had this talk with you guys yet? I'm going to have this talk with you right now. I talked to Miss Fox yesterday. She said she couldn't sleep last night. Her shoulder was killing her. She took a hydrocodone. And I'm like, Tracy, be careful with that. Okay? You ever go to the dentist? You have, wisdom teeth out. They may prescribe you one of these opioids. Okay? All it takes is one dose to get addicted. And I'm not kidding. It makes you feel really good. It takes away your pain. Okay, it takes not away your physical pain, but it makes you feel good. It does things to the brain. One dose. So when I take hydrocodone, you only take it if you are in pain. If you think you can handle that pain without it, do. I break mine in half if I ever need it. Okay, and I save them. I mean, I had a bottle left from like 3 years ago that I'm down to 1/2 pill. Okay, because sometimes you get pain and you're like, I have ankles and knees and elbows and wrists. Okay, and so, but I'll just take a half. Okay, that's my talk. All right, I've had 2 friends that nearly died that became addicted. Okay, to painkillers, opioids. Okay, don't do it. All right, and who is it hitting most? White middle class. That's who's hitting the hardest by the opioid crisis. Okay. All right. Enough said. Okay. All right. We're going to move on from the 18th Amendment to the 19th Amendment. Okay. And women's suffrage. Okay. This is a long time coming. Obviously, during World War I, guys, I talked about how many men volunteered, enlisted. The military went from 100,000 to 3.5 million. And so women really went into the workplace, into the factories, not to the extent that we saw in World War II, okay, which was massive, but nonetheless, a lot, okay? So with this, President Wilson comes out after the war and just basically saying, with the great effort that American women put forth in the Great War, I see nothing wrong with giving half the population the right to vote. Because literally half the population did not have the right to vote. Okay? And so finally, 1920, guys, you'll get the first presidential election, women will be able to vote. Okay? And the first president they're going to elect is Warren G. Harding. Are we ready for Warren G? This is one of my favorite pictures of all time. Now this is a protest. I got another story about this too. Okay. All right, so oh no? Are we ready? Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right, here's Warren G. Okay, he's an Ohio guy. Very handsome guy, handsome old, fatherly looking figure. Okay. And what he's doing right there is he's throwing out the first pitch of the season, opening day. Okay. Howard Taft was the first one to do this. Look this up this morning. Okay. Harding, and this is Herbert Hoover over here. Okay. So remember, Harding, Coolidge, Hoover. Okay. Hoover is the Secretary of Commerce for Harding. Will later become president. Okay. Now, this tradition that dates back about 100 years, the president would come to the opening day of the baseball season, and he's standing in the presidential box, okay, and he'd throw out the first pitch, okay, but it was like a wedding, you know, like at a wedding where they take the brides, what do you call that thing? Is that? Is it a garter? Is it garter?
I think it's that.
Garter belt?
Yeah, the thing on your leg.
Yeah, and they throw it.
No, the girl.
No, you gotta go to a different kind of wedding. I think they call it a garter belt.
I think that's
Okay. And then the best man throws it, and the ladies do the flowers. Okay. And the person that catches is going to be the next person to get married, right?
Yeah.
So all the baseball team, the home team, gather around the box, and the president throws it up, and they're all trying to catch it. So whoever catches has a keepsake. You know what I mean? Today they go out on the field and throw out the first pitch, right? Now, Trump hasn't done this. He's broken with tradition. I hope he should go out and throw it. Now, he's thrown out a first pitch before, but that was before he was president. So I'm actually kind of disappointed in him for not doing that. And he doesn't have a bad arm. He was at the White House, Mariano Rivera, who's one of the greatest pitchers we've ever had, a couple months ago, and they were playing catch. And Trump throws the ball good. Okay? Some of our presidents, don't take any offense to it. Do we have any softball players? Grace plays softball. You play softball. Anybody else? Okay. Don't take offense to this. But some of our presidents throw like a girl. Okay. Grace, you throw like a guy. Okay. most of our presidents throw like girls. Now, okay. I'm staying on the first pitch here because this is wonderful history. Okay, so we've had southpaws. Okay. Now, when Hoover became president in 1933, okay, so it was 1930, 1928, okay, 1920, this will get my orders here, 32, 36, yeah, okay. Yeah. So 32, Hoover's running for re-election against FDR, okay, all right, and he's throwing out the first pitch. And the crowd was chanting because he's a Protestant. Hoover's a Protestant, okay? And Roosevelt's a New Yorker, and he's against prohibition. Hoover's for keeping prohibition. And so the fans at the stadium were chanting when he was throwing out the first pitch. We want beer. We want beer. And especially at the ball game, right? We're having beer at the ball game, yeah? And Hoover's standing in the way of that. Hoover lost. All right. So Hoover is a newspaper guy. Started his own newspaper, grew and prospered. Served in the Ohio State Senate. Served as lieutenant governor of Ohio, and then went on to become governor of Ohio. So he's going to run for president as a Republican, and he doesn't have a ton of experience. Okay. He's a newspaper guy mostly. He doesn't have a lot of political experience. But he does have this going for him. He's friendly. People like him. Okay? It's kind of like Obama. A lot of people just like the man. You know what I mean? A lot of people vote for Trump, but they don't like him. You know what I mean? Some people do like him. Some people don't like him, but still vote for him. Okay? You know, I like Joe Biden. He's a nice enough guy. Okay? But I may not vote for him. You know what I mean? But he's got that going for him. He's silver-haired. He's dignified. He looks like a president. And who's voting now? Did I just imply to a group of women that women would actually vote based on a person's physical appearance? I did, because guys will do it too. Okay? Now, not everybody. What's important is to listen to what comes out of their mouth, not what it looks like coming out of it. Okay? People are shallow. You're not. Don't be shallow. Okay, listen to their words. Know what their plans are. Understand history. So, I'm kidding around, but people do. They judge people on their looks, and back when Clinton was running for president, there were women that actually thought he was kind of hot. Okay, I'm serious. Okay. Yeah, John F. Kennedy for sure, right? Yeah. Okay, 35 we got? In honor of, I'm going to show you my favorite first pitch. Okay, we just had 9/11. Okay, hit New York City, right? We're in the playoffs. Baseball's in the playoffs. September. Okay. Oh, by the way, my team yesterday clinched a spot in the playoffs for baseball. The Chicago White Sox. For the first time in 12 years, my team will be playing in October. 2005, world champions. Okay. I waited my whole life for that, and then I got one. Maybe we'll get another one this year. Okay. I know we got some Royals fans in here. Okay. Dude, New York City hit hard, right? You guys hit hard. So baseball shut down for a few days, and they were scared to do it in New York because the attack took place there. But the Yankees are in the playoffs, and they said, you know what? We're not going to let the terrorists win. We are going to have baseball. Okay. And so George W. Bush, the President of the United States, comes and throws out the first pitch of the first game after 9/11. And it's electric, guys. Now, George W. Bush, the son, is a part owner of the Texas Rangers. He's a baseball guy, okay? Now, he wasn't a baseball player in college. He was a cheerleader at Yale. So, but his father, George Herbert Walker Bush, actually pitched and played first base at Yale. He was a lefty. Okay, so he threw the ball well. Obama didn't play baseball growing up, so when he threw out his first pitch, and he's a lefty, he throws like a girl. Now, Bush, he grew up playing baseball, goes out, New York City. This is intense. It's my favorite. Okay, you gonna play?
Apple TV Plus made Defending Jacob. HBO made Succession. Get Apatow made The King of Staten Island. And the Apple TV app made it easy to rent, buy, or stream all your favorites.
Okay.
All your TV, all in one app.
For tonight's ceremonial first pitch, and please welcome the President of the United States.
He's got a bulletproof vest underneath that jacket. Now, see, there's a rubber out front. See the one out front? They put that out for him so he wouldn't have to throw the full distance. Right down there.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Diamondbacks end up, that's the World Series, actually. Diamondbacks end up winning that World Series. You guys know who Derek Jeter is?
Yeah.
Okay, he was the shortstop for the Yankees. This guy right here. Now, I'm not a Yankees fan. I just told you I'm a White Sox fan. But Derek Jeter told President Bush before he went out to throw out the first pitch, he said, you better not throw from that mound, that rubber that's out front. Well, we're going to give you hell for that. Okay? So he challenged him, so Bush went back to the main rubber and threw it from there. So it's kind of a cool story. The whole thing. There's some documentaries on it and so forth. You guys want to see Obama?
Yeah.
All right. Now, Obama is a White Sox fan. Where's my YouTube?
She's very smart, so she's educating on stuff, so healthy. No, but she like
I didn't know what I was
time and I read interviews.
But that almost saved me so much
You
money.
may hear some booze.
Got you a little something special.
I know.
State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Say the man.
You want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Please stand and welcome the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, who will be throwing out the
Oh, dang.
He was so happy. Poor guy.
Ted Turner and the Commissioner of Major League Baseball, Ron Seeley. Catching the pitch will be third baseman Brian Zimmerman.
Oh, he's so I just mean like just go soft, like just a soft.
I like Dr. Fauci's throw fast though.
Yeah.
This was really good.
Oh dear.
That's not fair. And I watched a video. You guys can look that up on YouTube. There was one that was like showed 100 years of the first pitch, and well, no, it's not 100 presidents, but 100 years. So they showed a bunch of them throwing them out, and really none of them were good at it, except for the Bushes. You know, John F. Kennedy looked like he could throw a baseball a little bit, but that was about it. Okay. All right, guys, as we move through history, we're going to be looking at different presidential administrations. Some of those administrations we will dig into. We will look at their cabinet. We will study that. Others we will not, okay? Usually when it's a significant time period. And with Harding, well, they basically used to call Harding's administration the most corrupt administration in American history. Okay, so that's one to dive into and talk about a little bit, right? Now, he had some very good appointments. You know, you appoint your secretaries of defense and state and everything, right? So these are some names you probably heard of, like Herbert Hoover. Have you ever heard of Carnegie Mellon Institute University? Carnegie? You've heard of Dale Carnegie? Carnegie? Yeah, New York. Yeah. Well, Mellon is the Carnegie Mellon, the melon of the Carnegie Mellon. Oh my gosh. Okay. Very rich. I mean, very rich. Okay. Charles Evan Hughes is going to become the Secretary of State. He's actually very well qualified for this. Had helped negotiate some peace treaties with Japan and Korea and so forth. Okay. Mellon, this is a name we're going to be talking about for a while with two L's. Mellon is going to be the Secretary of Treasury, not only under Harding, but also under Coolidge and Hoover. So it's really rare to see a cabinet member stay in under multiple presidents. In fact, it's kind of rare for them to stay more than 4 years. So even if a president gets reelected, they tend to have turnover in their cabinet. So like when Obama's Secretary of State was, he had 3. He kept Gates from Bush just for about a year. Then he had John Kerry, and then he had Hillary Clinton for his second term. Okay, so it kind of changes. Okay, Mellon's going to stay for three presidents. Okay, and then of course Hoover's going to become president. All right. Now here's where Harding got into trouble. It was the disastrous appointments. Now, Harding's from Ohio, okay? So anytime you get a new president, especially if they're a governor, they're going to bring with them people from their state. You know, people that help them get to where they are today, people they trust. So there's a lot of people from Ohio moving to D.C. with Harding, okay? They call them his cronies. A couple of them that really ended up making, you've heard this thing, you are who your friends are? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Be careful who your friends are. Mm-hmm. Like the ones that are selling joints on Friday.
What's a lot about?
Okay, all right. Now, Albert Fall became the second, he's an old friend of Harding. And guys, this is the thing you can do. You're like, hey, this is one of my buddies, I'm gonna give him a job in government. You know what I mean? And this is what he does. Now, he makes him the Secretary of Interior. Does anybody know what the Secretary of Interior does? Somebody's got to say it, right? Decorate the White House?
Yeah.
No. But I knew somebody would say it. Okay? Somebody's got to say it. Okay? Thank you for participating. Okay, Secretary of the Interior is in charge of all federal lands, the interior, national forests, okay, federal lands. Yes? With me? So, like, our federal lands are leased to oil companies for oil exploration. Our federal lands are leased to ranchers so that cattle can graze on federal land, okay? And guess what? They pay a rent, a lease price to the government, okay? Well, Albert Fall, who didn't believe in conservation of our federal lands to begin with, then he started giving leases to oil companies, but he didn't tell anybody. And he kept the money for himself. Albert Fall went to jail. How did that make Harding look? Mm-hmm. Okay. President Trump's got some friends that have made him look bad too, right? Okay. It happens. Okay. Same thing with Obama. I mean, Obama went to church in Chicago at this church where the Reverend Jeremiah Wright preached every Sunday. And some of the stuff that came out of that guy's mouth was, you know, pretty loony. Okay? And Obama went to church there for years. So, do you feel the same way, Mr. Obama? How do you feel about what Reverend Jeremiah Wright is saying? Okay? So, yeah, I mean, sometimes who you associate with is going to make you look bad. Okay? Now, Harry Daugherty becomes the Attorney General. This guy's not qualified. Okay? Guys, you want to have somebody that's been in law enforcement, somebody that's a lawyer, an attorney, none of the above for Harry Daugherty. Okay? And so his only qualification was he had helped Harding get elected. He said, like, I'm going to award you with this job. Okay? He was incompetent, and it showed. And eventually, because of scandal, Harry Daugherty tried to take his own life and failed. How'd that make Harding look? Okay, so Harding's friends, or his cronies, or what the media took to calling the Ohio gang, okay, spent more time playing cards than planning national policy, using their office to enrich themselves, made Harding look incompetent, which he wasn't, and helped lead to his death. Okay, we're not going to bury Harding yet, but he is going to get very stressed out over this, all these scandals in his cabinet. And he's going to overwork himself. Okay, and he's not in good health. He's got pneumonia. And he's keeping a crazy schedule. And he's going to collapse on his bed while he's out campaigning or out talking to American people. He goes to a hotel, walks up a big flight of stairs. He's out in out west in Northern California, and collapses on his bed and dies. Okay? So be looking for that story. Because Calvin Coolidge going to become president. But we're, like I said, not burying Harding yet. We've got a lot to talk about with his administration. Okay? So tune into that on Monday, and you guys have a great weekend. And don't get COVID. Stay away from the big parties. Okay? And don't do drugs.